Why did the salad go to the dance club? Because he heard they had some sick beats, yo! I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I know that was pretty bad. What up, YouTube? Scott here. Thanks again for visiting the channel. As always, I appreciate it. I'm back to some tabletop down for that ass. So I don't know if I'm gonna fuck this up because it's been like over a month since I've done a tabletop down. So hopefully I'll just fall right back into it. But thanks so much for visiting the channel. If this is your first time on the channel, thank you so much for watching. If you would be so kind as to just go ahead and hit that thumbs up button just for the algorithm. And if you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. And today, I'm going to be doing a quick review on the Hinderer Knives. So excited. The Hinderer Knives XM-24, which I just recently got into my collection about a month and a half ago. But I haven't been on in a while, so I'm just now getting around to it. I also have my XM18 out here just for some comparison and all that good stuff. So what do you say, guys? Let's do it up. Again, I'm going to take this out of here for now. I don't know why I put the stickers here. I just think they look really cool. And I don't know, maybe I feel special because I've got two different Hinderer Knives stickers. So I guess that's pretty petty. But again, I love these stickers. I love everything about these knives. When I first saw this guy on MC's channel, I really enjoyed it. I appreciated the aesthetics of it. I really like the thickness of the blade, the thickness of the handles, the scales. There really wasn't much about this knife that I didn't like, but I wasn't like a huge Hinderer fanboy like MC is. And since I've gotten my Hinderers, I've grown to love them. Absolutely love them. But I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere near MC's level. So, the Hinderer Knives XM-24 is a very large knife, as you can see. The first size comparison, obviously, that I'm going to do with this guy is the XM18. But before we get to measurements, the XM24 comes in overall at about 9.2 inches, which looks about maybe a little longer than that, but roughly. The blade on it is 4 inches long, approximately. And I'm not sure what the cutting edge is. I forgot to look that up because I'm an idiot. But it looks like it's about 3.5 to 3.75 inches, somewhere between there. And the handle is roughly 5.4 inches long, which looks about right. Excuse me, guys. I have a really bad cold. Actually, I have the Rona. I don't know if I told you guys yet or not, but yeah, I have the Rona. So if I sound pretty shitty and if I get off on a coughing tangent, I'm going to try not to do that. But I apologize if I do. But anyway, the weight on this guy, actually, you know what? I'm going to compare it to the XM18 first. So the XM18 looks like it comes in at around 8.25 inches with a 3.65 inch long blade and about a 3.25 inch cutting edge. The handle looks to be about 4 inches long, maybe 4.5. I'm not sure on that. Again, I didn't look up the specs on the 18, but I probably should have done that. I suck at this, but I mean, you guys seem to enjoy it, so what the hell? Let's keep going. I'm going to center this pivot to pivot so you can see the difference in size with the XM18 and the XM24. It's pretty bad to make an XM18 look like a smaller knife. Now, these probably don't look so bad, but if you look at the XM18 in my hand, let me see if I can get you to, there you go. It doesn't look like a huge knife in my hand because I have giant hands. But this guy, I mean, all day long. This does not look like a small knife in my hand at all. And I absolutely love that about this knife. I really, really do. So now that you've seen the size comparison with the 18 and the 24, we'll get the rest of these guys out of the way. The Rat Model 1 is going to be just a little bit smaller. See, make sure this whole thing is in frame. The Rat Model 1 is going to be just a little bit smaller than the XM24. And the Rat Model 2, obviously, is going to be quite a bit smaller than the XM24. Put that pivot to pivot so you can see the big difference there. Let's move on to the next ones. DEMKO knives. The DEMKO AD20S is going to obviously be smaller than the XM24. And the 80-20.5 is going to be quite a bit smaller with this guy. You can't see much of the entire bottom of the knife, but that's just because this thing is so goddamn small, and I want to make sure to get my coins in here. I'm actually going to talk about these later too, because a few people have asked me about my coins. Next one, last but not least, the SPYDERCO Paramilitary 2. Let's do that pivot to pivot as well. See how that goes. There we go. Just a little bit smaller, and the Para 3 obviously is going to be just dwarfed by the 24. Absolutely tiny compared to this knife. Not mad at it though. Doesn't bother me at all. Let's see here. Carry profile. I don't know why I'm doing the carry profile. This obviously is not going to be a very carry friendly knife for a lot of people, but I love it. I think it's great. Okay, here we go. So you can see that this is obviously bigger than both knives. Thickness, I think that's the most intimidating part of this knife for a lot of people, is going to be quite a bit thicker than the Para 3. And the height is not too bad at all, obviously. So the highest part of the knife, we'll go with that. You can see that it's nowhere near as tall as the Para 3. All right, now let's get the weight and the blade stock thickness, although we don't really need that. Anybody that watches Metal Complex's channel, sorry about the squeaking there. Anybody who watches Complex's channel, they're going to know the thickness of the XM-24 is 187 thousandths. But anyway, let's make sure we get a weight on this guy. I'm just excited that I finally got a pair of calipers to bring onto the channel. All right, let's get down to pounds and ounces here. Make sure we're zeroed out. Good. All right, so 7.7 ounces. My research showed that it's roughly 7.5. I'm sure, there's going to be things that make a difference here and there, a fraction of an ounce or whatever. But also, if you decide to get a full tie XM-24, that's obviously going to be quite a bit heavier than that. So we had 7.7 ounces for the 18. I'm sorry, for the 24. Let's see what the 18 is. The 18 is 5.7, so that's about 2 ounces lighter than the XM-24, which I think is prohibitive on anybody that I would consider to be a large knife carrying person. Excuse me. Okay, so I finally got my caliper. I was so excited to find this. I found a caliper that is it's carbon fiber composite digital caliper, so I don't have to worry about scratching up the blades when I'm measuring blade stock thickness. Unfortunately, with it being carbon fiber, it's not quite as accurate as a steel caliper, but I don't care. So let's see here. We've got, so it looks like it's saying 175 thousandths. So this is probably off by about 10 thousandths, which, I mean, that's not a big deal. I know that this is 187 thousandths, and now it's saying 176. So yeah, I'm probably going to have to either get these calibrated, or I'm not sure. I haven't really tried these out yet. So yeah, it's closer to 180 there, but it's probably going to be 5 or 10 thousandths off. That's not going to kill anything. The thing I like about this knife is that the blade stock thickness and the scale thickness is just about the same. 187 on this, and 187 thousandths even with the G10 on top of the titanium liners here. Anyway, so we got the weight, we got the blade stock thickness. We are looking at S45 VN for the blade steel, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I don't need MagnaCut. I really don't. Or any kind of seriously stupid super steel. S45 for me is perfectly fine. I absolutely love this steel. The blade is a Spanto shaped blade. If you don't know what that is, then hold on one second, guys. Okay, if you don't know what Spanto means, that just means that it's a spear point blade with a tanto edge to it. So that's all that means. Hinderer Knives also makes different blade shapes. They do Wharncliffe, they do sheep's foot, but they also do one that is a harpoon Spanto, which has a harpoon notch on the top here. I've always wanted one of those ever since I saw it on Complex's channel. But as hard as it is to find XM-24s, it's virtually impossible to find an XM-24 with a harpoon Spanto blade. You could wait for years to get that. And I actually waited for 3 years to be able to buy this knife. Anyway, I'll finish with the I'll finish with the review before I get into the story time. We've got a flat ground blade here, and flat here. We've also got a flat that carries out to about 90% the length of the blade, and you've got a small swedge here, which carries down to about the same point as the flat. We are running on bearings, but this knife comes with the tri-way bearing system. You've got Teflon washers, you've got phosphor bronze washers with stainless steel spacers to make it lock in tight. And then you've also got the option to use bearings. I believe they're shipping all of their knives on bearings right now, and that's fine with me. I don't go digging around in the dirt and the mud and the sand. So I'm perfectly fine with bearings, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Excuse me. This is another knife that's pretty unique, as the hardware is all different. The pivot itself is proprietary, so you can use a flathead screwdriver and a penny if you need to get this guy, although I've never had any issues with Hinderer's pivots. I just unscrew the flathead and this stays still and it comes apart perfectly fine. Then I put it back together, it does the same thing. It doesn't spin, I mean it does spin freely, but for me it's never done that. And I've only had two, but if you do have an issue with that, they either make an armorer's tool that you can put into this notch here to stop that from moving, or you can just drill out part of a penny and be able to stick it in there. I would use a rag underneath it personally, but just to keep this still while you're unscrewing it. But I've never had any kind of issues with that. The body screws themselves for the standoffs, those are hex screws. I can't remember what size exactly. I can tell you from personal experience, I didn't know a lot about Hinderer knives when I first got them. So I used a T8 to unscrew the body screws on my XM-18. I don't know if you can see here or not, but there's just a little bit of damage to those screws. And there was also a little bit of damage to my bit. Because you're supposed to be using a hex bit to unscrew this, not a T8. Although a T8 will work if you absolutely have nothing else and you're out in the wilderness at the end of the world and everything like that. Anyway, the rest here, we have Phillips head screws for the pocket clips, and I do believe the screw for the steel lock bar inserts and the over travel stop are T6s. But these are, no, I'm sorry, those are also hex heads. The steel lock bar insert is a hex head, and at least for the XM-24, it looks like the screw for the over travel stop is a T6 or a T8. That's definitely a Torx screw right there. So, again, just a whole bunch of different... I don't know why that's not on camera. I apologize. A whole bunch of different bits that you have to use for getting this thing apart. But that's the only downside that I can think of with this knife. It's absolutely amazing. I love it so much. So we also have a liner here, which is not milled out, I don't believe. But there's a liner here on the show side with the G10 on top. You also, obviously, it's milled G10 and it's milled very well. I guess you kind of call that kind of like a diamond texture thing. But they also do milling where there's like black G10 underneath and then a different color on top. It's usually blue. But there's a whole bunch of different options you have with these knives. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, there is a little bit of anodization here on the jimping on the flipper tab / finger guard. And there's a little bit more anodization here. Okay, a little bit more anodization here on the jimping on the spine of the blade, but not on the scales themselves. So I think that's a really nice touch. I don't know if they've always done that with the XM-24s. It's not there on my 18. As you can see, it's just kind of jimping with the same color as the titanium, which that's fine. Doesn't matter to me. I just didn't know that they did that. Anyway, let's finish the review. So this is, like I said, a knife with a titanium lock side and a titanium liner underneath the show side. We have the tri-way pivot system, which I've already discussed. The action on this guy is absolutely phenomenal. It whips right out. and it just falls right back down into the handle. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the weight of the blade, and since it is on bearings, it's very drop shutty. If I were to put the phosphor bronze washers in this guy, I'm sure it would still be really, really smooth. It just probably wouldn't fall quite as readily as that. It also works with the thumb studs, but I will say you have to be very, very careful with the XM-24 to keep your finger off the lock bar, because if you put your finger anywhere near this guy, you're gonna mess up your thumb on that thumb stud. You can also reverse flick it if you really enjoy doing that, but I have to use a lot of wrist to do that. I don't know if the D10 is too heavy, but it's too heavy for me to do a regular reverse flick on it. The disengagement on this guy is absolutely fantastic. It is developing a little bit of lock stick, but it already seems like it's getting better. So I'm not too excited about that. Like I said, the D10's really good. It's a little bit heavy for me to do the reverse flick on it, but it's no problem at all with the thumb stud as long as I keep my finger off the lock bar. And like I said, the flipper tab, the D10 is definitely set perfectly for the flipper tab, that's for sure. Excuse me. The ergos on this guy are great too. The way they have the handle milled, you've got this giant forward finger choil here, very, very generous there. And then, you've got the other grooves on the knife, on the scales of the knife, which just your fingers fall right into, and it just makes it really, really comfortable for my particular hand. I will say that the pocket clip does cause a little bit of a hot spot, so if you are using this knife hard for long periods of time, you're absolutely going to want to wear gloves. Faux show. Again, as I said, there's some jimping here on the spine of the blade, along with a little bit of jimping on the lock side for you to be able to get a hold of that guy. Let me show you that without the blade in there. So you've got the jimping on the lock bar to be able to get in there and open that up if you need to. You've got a little bit more jimping down here on the bottom of the knife, and you've got your titanium standoffs here, and a little bit of jimping back here on the back as well. I'm pretty sure I showed you this jimping, but just in case I didn't, there is some more jimping on the thumb portion of the spine of the handle. So just a lot of thickness here, a lot of robustness, a lot of just really cool, this guy's been doing this since, and that's one of the reasons I had these stickers out here. This guy's been doing this since 1987, which means he started making knives, probably not these knives, he was probably starting with fixed blades, but he started making these knives, when I was like 9 years old, which means he's been doing it for a very, very long time, because I'm 45, so I did not know that about them, and I thought that was really cool. So anyway, the way this knife makes me feel is, it makes me feel like an absolute badass. I love carrying this knife around. I haven't carried it around very much yet just because I haven't been doing much lately. I do love the fact that it's an American-made knife. And, this is kind of like a special thing. I don't know why it is a special thing, but this just seems like something that the top makers seem to do. Chris Reeve does this. Hinderer does this. And who's the other one? I can't remember, but just having the name right here is really cool, and it just really it seems like it's a form of what's the word I'm looking for here? Exclusivity. Just not that I'm better than anybody else, just that I'm one of the cool guys in the knife community because I've got a couple of Hinderers. So I just think that's really, really neat, and this knife is so solid. All the way through the G10, the titanium liner, the titanium scale on the other side is huge, and just the thickness of the blade, the robustness of the blade, the amount of support you have out here towards the tip, I absolutely love that. Another thing I wanted to tell you about this guy, I meant to announce it as the Hinderer Knives XM-24 Spanto Stonewash G10. Just for anybody who doesn't know or hasn't been in the community for very long, but you want one of these knives, you need to be very careful when you're buying it because it's very complex. It says Spanto Stonewash G10, but the stonewash isn't necessarily referring to the blade here. The stonewash is referring to the finish of the titanium lock side. If you're buying something, you got to make sure that you pay attention to everything that you see in the description, because you might buy one that has a stonewash handle, but you might want a battle blue handle. That's how interchangeable these parts are, and just very modular. You can do anything you want to this knife. Now, They have different finishes, they have different milling, they have all kinds of different stuff that you can do for this knife. The XM-24 at its base is going to cost you around $600 to $650. I got mine from the ranch. I don't think there's a huge difference in price if you get it from like Blade HQ or USA Made Blade or something like that. But you you will start running into much higher prices as you get into, like, you know, titanium show side scales. You know, you've got different milling on different kinds of scales that you can get on titanium for this knife, different finishes on the blade, just different themes on the knife. I mean, these knives can vary wildly from $600 to like $1,200 or $1,300. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for one. If you see one that's like super duper expensive, it's probably a special one. What else do I have to say about this guy? Just absolutely love it. I don't want to call it awesome, because then I'd just be saying awesome the entire video, and I friggin' hate when people do that. So, but yeah, this is another one of my favorite knives in my collection. Probably not the favorite knife in my collection, but it's one that I've wanted ever since I got into the knife community and I found out what Hinderer knives were. I've wanted to get one, and the XM-24 is definitely one that is borderline unattainable most of the time. They probably only release once or twice a year, if that often. And when they drop, they go instantaneously. That's why I was so surprised with this knife. I told the story when I showed it to you guys the other day, but I wanted this knife so bad, and I saw that they were going to be releasing at 8 o'clock at night, and that's the day that I broke my hand. So I ended up in a hospital stretcher, and then I realized, I looked at my watch, it was 5 after 8, and I was like, shit, I missed the drop. They're already gone. But I went to the site anyway, just in case, and they had 2 variants left available. One was this one, the Coyote, and the other one was the JG10, which I really, really wanted. But before, when I went to go pay for it, they said, sorry, this item is no longer in stock. So I dropped back down to this one and was able to check out with it, which is just insanely rewarding to be able to do that. I'm so happy to have an 18 and a 24 in my collection now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. And stay up, y'all. Take it easy. Bye.